Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this. Today, we're exploring the reef trade-off. And we're going to look at how the rapid rise of sustainable coral farming is completely, and I mean completely, changing the marine aquarium game. So here's the big question. How do you keep vibrant reefs without, well, destroying them? It's a paradox that's kind of haunted the hobby for decades. Historically, getting that beautiful neon-colored coral for a home aquarium meant someone had to physically go out and extract wild colonies from natural reefs. Think about it. Pulling a living organism from its fragile ecosystem just to put it in a glass box? The environmental cost is massive. The sheer demand for these creatures was putting immense pressure on habitats that were already incredibly vulnerable. For the longest time, we faced this really harsh reality. The intense desire for vibrant home reefs was directly competing against the environmental cost of wild extraction. It's a tough trade-off, and honestly, it defined the entire industry. But hey, here's the good news. This old equation is rapidly changing. We aren't stuck in this zero-sum game anymore, where enjoying the marine hobby automatically equals habitat destruction. The industry is evolving so fast, and the way we source these incredible organisms is shifting toward a much more sustainable model. The solution we're unpacking today is coral aquaculture. Basically, it's the practice of growing corals in controlled nursery systems to supply fragments to hobbyists, which drastically reduces our reliance on wild extraction. And what's so incredibly exciting here is that this isn't just some pipe dream. It's an approach that perfectly aligns big conservation goals with actual market demand. Aquaculturists are producing healthier, more consistently available corals, and they're doing it in a way that retailers and hobbyists are enthusiastically supporting. It's quickly becoming the new normal. Let's break down how this actually builds a better experience for you, the hobbyist. When you compare wild unpredictability with stable farming parameters, the winner is clear. Captive propagation offers massive practical benefits. Corals that are raised under stable lighting, consistent water flow, and carefully managed water chemistry, they establish themselves much more reliably after shipping and acclimation. Sourcing from the wild means dealing with massive uncertainty, especially with species that are already incredibly difficult to collect sustainably. Farming simply takes that guesswork right out of the equation. In the reef-keeping world, your success or failure literally comes down to one thing: a coral's ability to adapt to a new microenvironment. Farmed corals are already conditioned for success. Because they've been raised in captive aquarium conditions their whole lives, they are basically pre-trained for aquarium living. You aren't shocking a wild creature by pulling it from the ocean and dumping it in a tank. You're just moving an aquarium coral to a new aquarium. That reliability shortens the learning curve for new reef keepers, and that matters immensely. And this brilliantly illustrates the real magic of how the process actually works. It's called frag-based propagation. Step 1. Growers take very small pieces from a healthy parent colony using techniques specifically designed to minimize harm. Step 2. They mount these fragments on substrates. Step 3 is conditioning. They move them through precise phases of shading, flow training, and nutrient management to keep stress low. And finally, Step 4, the grow-out period, where they mature for sale. The beauty here is that over time, one single parent colony yields multiple generations of corals. It improves long-term productivity and significantly lowers the need to ever go back to the wild. With this structured system comes a whole new level of accountability. Modern hobbyists, they're increasingly demanding to know exactly what they're putting into their tanks. They want a birth certificate, so to speak. And growers are responding with much better tracking and labeling. Now, when you buy a coral, you can often see the exact species or genus, the specific growth origin, and the exact farming approach used. This transparency is totally transforming the market. It provides clear documentation, more consistent inventory, and ultimately it builds a ton of trust between the buyer and the seller. Let's zoom out for a second to the macro environmental impact. The central promise of coral aquaculture is reducing those extraction pressures that damage fragile reef ecosystems. Now, to be perfectly clear, farming corals isn't going to magically cure global warming or reverse massive ocean pollution. Those global threats, they remain very real. But what it does do is directly stop the local habitat disruption and collection-related stress caused by the hobby itself. It empowers us to choose supply chains that simply do not intensify local degradation. Listen to this powerful sentiment from conservation-minded folks in the community. Sustainable should be more than a marketing term. I mean, it's incredibly easy to just slap a green label on a box and call it a day, right? But true sustainability requires way more effort. Responsible farms aim for the ethical sourcing of those parent colonies we talked about earlier. It requires controlled handling and transparent processes that prove there's a genuine, measurable reduction in wild harvesting. It's about visible action, not just clever advertising.
Now, what's really interesting here is looking behind the curtain. Aquaculture is absolutely the hero of our story, but scaling it up, that faces steep, expensive, real-world challenges. We're talking about significantly higher production costs because maintaining perfect water quality, specialized lighting, and skilled labor isn't cheap, which makes farmed corals pricier than uncertified alternatives. Survival rates also vary wildly depending on the species. Add to that the inconsistent quality standards across this booming industry, and crucially, a really big knowledge gap for the hobbyist.
Let's look a bit closer at that knowledge gap. Because just because a coral is farmed doesn't mean it's bulletproof. Actually, scratch that. It's more like the transition from a farm to a home tank just isn't foolproof. Even the so-called hardier, captive-grown corals require meticulous attention to water chemistry, careful placement, and really gradual light acclimation. You can't just drop them in and hope for the best. This is exactly why reputable vendors are now pairing their sales with serious husbandry guidance, making sure hobbyists know exactly how to transition these animals into their systems successfully. So, what's the action plan? How do we, as responsible hobbyists, actually step up to make sustainable coral keeping a reality? First, prioritize those transparent vendors who provide clear information and who actively discourage questionable sourcing. Second, buy appropriately sized fragments that have a fighting chance of adapting to a new environment. Third, acclimate them incredibly carefully to your specific lighting and flow. And fourth, maintain highly stable tank parameters to reduce any further stress on your newly introduced corals. It's all about being proactive, you know?
When you follow those steps, you actually become part of this essential feedback loop. It's like this. Better care supports stronger survival in your home tank, and stronger survival sustains the market demand for responsible aquaculture. This is exactly where your individual actions at home directly connect to a massive global shift in the supply chain. Your healthy captive system ultimately fuels the entire conservation effort, making sustainable farming the default path for the whole industry.
So the crucial point is that we're witnessing a massive, literal cultural shift in the hobby right now. As coral farming matures, we're moving away from treating coral as just a disposable, one-time purchase. Instead, hobbyists are starting to view it as a living, farmed asset, an asset that completely depends on ethical supply chains and responsible stewardship from the farm all the way to your living room. It's this beautiful alignment of appreciating nature while actively working to protect it. Which brings us to our final thought today. Are you ready to treat your next purchase not as a mere product, but as a living asset? Whether you're an active reef keeper, maybe considering starting a tank, or just someone fascinated by marine conservation, it's a powerful reminder of how our consumer habits directly connect to the natural world. By making informed, transparent choices, we can absolutely enjoy the beauty of the oceans while actually helping to protect them. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking the big questions, and I'll see you next time.